Stalingrad, the battle that changed the fate of Europe, where the German army buried its illusions and the Red Army found hope again. Let's imagine this: a city stretching 25 miles along the western bank of the Volga River. Beyond the river, an empty steppe. On this side, 1 million civilians, 3 massive military factories, and the pride of the Soviet Union. What if this very place became a furnace, consuming nearly 2 million lives? After the failure at Moscow, Hitler changed course, launched Operation Fall Blau, driving south to cut off the Soviet Union's southern supply lines, seize the oil fields of Baku and Kavkaz, wipe Stalingrad off the map, take control of the Volga River, and sever of a lifeline of Soviet transport. But why Stalingrad? Was this just another resource war as Germany's fuel reserves ran low? Or was this the name of the new political enemy that drove Hitler to madness? On June 28, 1942, the operation began. To ensure everything went as planned, the largest and most elite forces of Germany were deployed into battle, including 6th Army, consisting of the 8th, 11th, 14th, 51st, and 1st Corps, a force of 330,000 troops, 650 tanks, and 7,000 artillery pieces, commanded by General Friedrich Paulus. 4th Panzer Army was composed of the 4th Motorized Corps, the 48th Panzer Corps, and the 57th Panzer Corps, roughly 250 tanks and 15,000 armored troops, under General Hermann Hoth. Luftflotte die Nordfuhr, with roughly 1,200 aircraft under Field Marshal Wolfram von Richthofen. The flanks were held by about 200,000 troops from Romanian 3rd and 4th Armies, and another 250,000 Italians and Hungarians. In addition, 38,000 Germans from the 17th Corps. But one baffling question remains. Why would Hitler stake the fate of the 6th Army, the finest German force, on weaker allies holding its flanks? On August 23, 1942, Stalingrad began to shake. The Luftwaffe unleashed relentless carpet bombing, leveling 80% of the city. In just the first 48 hours, roughly 1,000 tons of bombs fell. Over 40,000 civilians died in the first week. The water supply, hospitals, and power grid were destroyed, turning Stalingrad into a graveyard of concrete and twisted steel. And yet, ironically, that very rubble became the Red Army's greatest weapon. Why? From September to November 1942, German artillery and air power continued to dominate. The noose tightened by the hour. Even when a Soviet soldier arriving at the front, life expectancy was no more than 24 hours. But instead of collapsing, the defenders chose to stand and die. Suicide assault squads were formed. General Vasily Chuikov employed his hug the enemy tactic, fighting at point-blank range, neutralized German artillery and airstrikes. Every square yard of the city became a trench, from the tractor factory, barricade, and the chemical plant, to the Mamayev-Kurgan railway station, the Volga riverbank, and even individual houses. Every inch was a battlefield. Especially, the hill of Mamayev-Kurgan changed hands over a dozen times in just 2 months. By the end, corpses were so numerous they could not be buried. They were burned or simply covered with sand, and the fighting continued on top of them. 3 months in, long enough for soldiers to forget why they had come, and fight only to avenge the comrade who had stood beside them just 2 minutes earlier. On November 19, 1942, Operation Uranus began. The Soviet Union launched the largest pincer counterattack in history, with 3 armies striking from the north, southwest, and southeast. It's hard to understand why Hitler trusted non-German armies to guard the flanks of his main force, a trust that in the end turned against him. In just 4 days, the Romanian 3rd and 4th Armies were shattered, and Soviet forces closed a ring at Kalach, trapping 330,000 German and Axis troops inside what became known as the Stalingrad Cauldron. By December 1942, the Germans were out of artillery shells, fuel was scarce, disease spread, and rations fell to 200 grams of bread per man per day. Once again, logistics became a serious problem. Hunger and freezing temperatures claimed lives every hour. On December 12, 1942, Field Marshal Manstein launched Operation Wintergewitter, attacking from Kotelnikovo towards Stalingrad to rescue Paulus's 6th Army. By December 20th, after driving back Soviet units and closing in on the west bank of the Mishkova River, just 30 miles from Stalingrad, the Germans were stopped cold by General Malinovsky's 2nd Guards Army. The bridge over the Mishkova River was destroyed. Soviet rifle divisions and artillery pounded every possible crossing point. Manstein saw that his troops were exhausted, supplies insufficient, and Paulus, bound by Hitler's no-surrender order, could not break out from inside. On December 23, 1942, Manstein ordered a retreat. The only door for Paulus to escape slammed shut forever. From January 4 to 9, 1943, the Soviets tightened the encirclement and launched probing attacks, retook the southwestern parts of the city. An ultimatum to surrender was sent, but Paulus refused, still obeying Hitler's orders. On January 10th, the Soviets launched Operation Koltso under General Rokossovsky. Over 7,000 guns fired from all directions, smashing every strong point. Between January 17th and 26th, the 6th Army was split into 2 isolated pockets in the city's industrial and central districts. Lost all communications. With all resources gone, German troops could no longer resist. They either froze in the trenches or were buried under rubble. Defensive lines crumbled completely. At 7:35 a.m. on January 31st, 1943, just one day after being promoted to Field Marshal, Paulus and his entire staff surrendered in their command bunker. 2 days later, the northern industrial sector under General Karl Strecker also capitulated. There was no gunfire now, no more Junkers aircraft in the skies. The 6th Army had ceased to exist. For the first time, a German field marshal was captured alive, defying the Führer's order. "I will not shoot myself just to please Hitler," Paulus said. This was Stalingrad, where the German Reich not only suffered total defeat, but where more blood flowed than oil, where honor weighed more than tanks, and where history was rewritten by the mud and blood-stained hands of those who refused to bow. A turning point, paid for, with over 2 million lives, including hundreds of thousands of civilians. If Hitler had not been stubborn, if Paulus had broken out, if the Soviets had not thrown in everything, would World War II have ended in Berlin or somewhere else years later?